We think of space as a silent void, cold, dark, empty, but the universe is not kind. It is brutal, and nowhere is that more true than on Venus, our closest planetary neighbor, just 38 million kilometers away, closer than Mars, closer than Jupiter, easier to reach than the moon in some ways. Yet, we haven't sent a human there. We haven't even sent a probe that lasted more than 2 hours. Why? Because Venus isn't just hostile. It's a living nightmare. A world where the sky is acid, the ground is molten, the air crushes like the deep ocean, and the heat melts metal before it can blink. This isn't a planet you visit. It's a planet that kills. And yet, for decades, we ignored it. We looked past it. We called it Earth's twin. But Earth's twin doesn't have oceans. It has rivers of lava. It doesn't have clouds. It has sulfuric acid storms that rain down for centuries. It doesn't have weather. It has hell. So why don't we fly to Venus? Not because we can't, but because if we did, we wouldn't come back. And what we've learned from a few who dared to touch its surface is enough to make us afraid to try again. Venus is the second planet from the Sun. Earth is the third. At its closest approach, when both planets align, they're only 38 million kilometers apart. That's less than 1/10 the distance to Mars at its nearest. In theory, it should be easier to get there. Faster, cheaper, less fuel. But here's the cruel twist. The closer you get, the harder it becomes. Because Venus isn't just far. It's hostile. Its atmosphere is thick, heavy, deadly. A single cubic meter of air near its surface weighs as much as a small car. The pressure? 92 times greater than Earth's. That's like being 900 meters underwater, but instead of water, you're drowning in boiling, corrosive gas. And the temperature? 462 degrees Celsius. Hotter than a pizza oven. Hotter than lead melts. Hotter than the surface of Mercury. Even though Mercury is twice as close to the Sun. This isn't a planet. It's a furnace. And we're not trying to land on it. We're trying to survive inside a nuclear reactor made of rock and acid. Earth's atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.04% carbon dioxide. We breathe it without thinking. Venera? 96.5% carbon dioxide, 3.5% nitrogen, trace amounts of sulfur dioxide. Water vapor? Almost none. What does that mean? If you stepped onto the surface, even with a perfect spacesuit, the first breath you took would kill you. Not from lack of oxygen, from poisoning. Carbon dioxide at this concentration acts like a suffocating blanket. Your lungs fill with poison. Your blood turns acidic. You die in seconds. Even if you could somehow breathe, you'd be crushed. Imagine standing under a skyscraper made of steel, pressing down on your body. That's what 92 atmospheres feels like. Your bones would crack. Your organs would rupture. Your eyes would bulge out. And then the heat. 462 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, copper softens, lead melts, plastic vaporizes, even titanium begins to glow. No known material on Earth can survive long-term exposure to those conditions. The Soviet probes that landed on Venus didn't fail because of engineering flaws. They failed because the planet ate them alive. One survived for 127 minutes. Another lasted 67, and that was the best we ever did. The Soviet Venera missions gave us our only glimpse of Venus's surface. Venera 9 and Venera 10 landed in October 1975. They sent back grainy black and white images. Rocky plains, flat horizons, no trees, no wind, no clouds, just a gray, baked wasteland under a yellow-orange sky. No stars, no sun, because the clouds above, 20 kilometers thick, block all sunlight. It's always twilight, always hot, always silent. Then came Venera 13 and Venera 14 in 1982. They sent color photos, reddish soil, rocks like broken glass, evidence of ancient volcanic flows. One probe's arm bent, not from impact, but from the sheer weight of the air. The pressure crushed it like paper. These weren't landscapes. They were tombstones for everything that tried to live. There are no craters, because the atmosphere burns up meteorites before they hit. No rivers, no lakes, no oceans, just dry, cracked plains and volcanoes, hundreds of them, some larger than Mount Everest. One, Mont Mons, rises 8 kilometers high, and they're still active. Every few thousand years, a new eruption rips open the crust. Lava flows for hundreds of kilometers. The surface renews itself, like a living thing, but not alive, just burning. On Earth, rain falls. It cleans. It nourishes. On Venus, rain falls but never reaches the ground. It evaporates 20 kilometers up. It's not water. It's sulfuric acid, concentrated, corrosive, enough to dissolve metal, to eat through plastic, to burn skin. The clouds are so dense, they reflect 75% of sunlight back into space. That's why Venus shines so brightly in our sky. It's not beautiful. It's a mirror of death. And the winds? At cloud level, between 1961 and 1984, the Soviet Union launched 16 probes to Venus. 10 reached the surface. 6 survived longer than an hour. 2, Venera 13 and Venera 14, lasted over 2 hours. They transmitted color photos. They analyzed soil. They measured temperature. They recorded pressure. And then they died. Not from crashing, not from signal loss, from the environment. The electronics overheated. The batteries melted. The cameras fogged. The arms bent. The antennas broke. The Soviets built these machines to last 30 minutes. They lasted hours. And still, we stopped. Why? Because after 1984, we realized something: we cannot win. We cannot build a robot that survives a week. We cannot build a suit that keeps a human alive for 5 minutes. We cannot build a base that lasts a year. The cost: thousands of billions of dollars. The return? A few hours of data, a handful of photos, a monument to failure. NASA tried too. Pioneer Venus, Magellan, Venus Express, all orbiters, all remote, all safe. None dare to land, because landing is suicide, and we're not ready to send people to die. Some scientists dream of changing Venus, making it habitable, terraforming, turning hell into home. It sounds impossible, but let's imagine it. Step 1, cool the planet. How? Place giant mirrors in orbit, reflecting sunlight away, or drop reflective aerosols into the atmosphere, blocking the sun. Do this for centuries. Slowly, temperatures drop. Step 2, remove the carbon dioxide. How? Bombard the planet with asteroids made of ice. Each impact releases water. Each drop of water reacts with carbon dioxide, forming carbonate rock, trapping the gas. Step 3, create a magnetic field. How? Launch a massive superconducting ring around the equator. Generate artificial magnetism. Protect the atmosphere from solar wind. Step 4, introduce oxygen. Plant algae. Engineer microbes. Let them breathe carbon dioxide, spit out oxygen. Wait 10,000 years. Eventually, breathable air. Pressure drops. Temperature stabilizes. Oceans form. Life returns. It sounds like science fiction, because it is. It'd take millennia, cost more than all GDP on Earth combined. And even then, Success isn't guaranteed. Venus might fight back. Volcanoes erupt. New carbon dioxide floods the air. The process reverses. We become the fools who try to tame a god and lost. But maybe we don't need to land. Maybe we don't need to walk. Maybe we just need to float. At 50 kilometers above the surface, the conditions are almost Earth-like. Temperature, 27 degrees Celsius. Pressure, 1 atmosphere. Wind, 100 kilometers per hour, fast but manageable. And above the acid clouds, clean air, sunlight, no crashing gravity, no melting metal, no deadly pressure. Here, we could build floating cities, balloons filled with breathable air, habitats suspended in the sky, like cities in the clouds, powered by solar panels, harvesting energy from the sun, mining minerals from the clouds, collecting sulfuric acid for fuel. People could live here for months, years, generations. They'd never touch the ground. They'd never see the surface. But they'd be alive, and from above, they could look down at the inferno below and know we're not conquerors. We're guests in a house that hates us, and we're lucky to be allowed to sit on the porch. Mars is cold, dry, radiation blasted, but it's understandable. We can imagine walking on it, wearing suits, building domes, growing potatoes. Venus? It defies imagination. It's not a place you explore. It's a place you avoid. Mars has ice. Venus has acid. Mars has seasons. Venus has eternal summer. Mars has dust storms. Venus has acid storms that last for centuries. Mars is quiet. Venus is screaming. So we chose Mars because it's easier to lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves, we'll fix Mars. We don't say, we'll fix hell. And funding follows dreams, not nightmares. NASA spends $10 billion on Mars rovers. Zéro venu l'index. Because we don't believe we can win, and we don't want to lose again. In 2025, Russia plans to launch Venera D, a lander designed to survive 3 hours on the surface. It will carry drills, sensors, cameras. It will analyze soil, measure seismic activity, look for signs of ancient water. It will transmit 340 megabytes of data before dying. It will be the first Russian probe to land on Venus since 1984, the first in 42 years. Is it worth it? Will it teach us anything new? Probably not, but it will remind us we haven't given up. We still wonder. We still ask what happened here. Was there life? Could it happen to Earth? Venus is a warning, not a destination. A mirror, reflecting what Earth could become if we keep burning fossil fuels, if we keep warming the climate, if we keep ignoring the balance. Venus wasn't always like this. It was once like us, and then it changed, slowly, irreversibly, and now it's dead. Not because of aliens, not because of war, but because of physics, because of runaway greenhouse effect, because of forgetting the rules. We study Venus, not to go there, but to remember where we came from and where we might be going. We don't fly to Venus because we can't, but we don't fly to Venus because we won't. We are afraid of the heat, afraid of the pressure, afraid of the acid, afraid of failing again, afraid of what we might find. What if we land and find fossils? What if we find proof that life once thrived and then vanished? What if Venus tells us, this is what happens when you forget your place in the universe? We don't want to hear that answer. So we turn away. We focus on Mars, on the moon, on rockets, on flags, on dreams of colonization. But Venus? It waits, patient, silent, watching, waiting for us to look up and finally understand that sometimes the most dangerous place in the solar system isn't out there. It's right next door, and we're the ones who left the door open. We hope this journey ignited your curiosity, Stay with us as we explore the worlds that dare not be touched, the planets that refuse to be named, and the truths the universe hides in plain sight. Subscribe and join us for the next discovery.